What's up guys? Today I'm going to show you how to replace a rear main seal in any 4.6, 5.4 or 6.8 V10. So unfortunately the first step of this whole procedure is going to be remove the transmission. There's no way around it. The easiest way to tell if you have a rear main seal leak is if you have an oil leak between the back of the engine and the transmission. It's usually the rear main seal or the oil pan gasket. But I was in here doing a clutch job on this particular Mustang. I had the transmission out, I had the flywheel off. I was right there, so I went ahead and replaced it because the car is close to 20 years old at this point. With that said, all the 4.6s, all the 5.4s, all the 6.8 V10s, they're all the same. They all use the same seal, they all use the same procedure. As far as the procedure, I'm using Ford's procedure. This is how Ford wants it done. There's a couple different ways you can go about doing this, but I'm going to show you guys the Ford procedure. With that said, let's get underneath the car and hop in and show you what it takes.
All right, so this procedure is going to apply to a bunch of different stuff. All the 4.6s, all the 5.4s, and all the 6.8 V10s. Doesn't matter if it's 2, 3, 4 valve, whatever it is. If it's a modular engine, 4.6, 5.4, or 6.8, this procedure will apply to this rear main seal. They're all the same. So a couple things we got to do. We got to get some 8mm bolts taken out of the actual plate, and then there's 2 bolts down here in the bottom that go into the oil pan that we have to remove. All right, the bolts in the oil pan are 13mm. You have to take 2 of those out as well. Once that's off, there's 2 dowels up here in the top that you're gonna have to get at. So it's gonna be stuck on these 2 dowels, and there's silicone around the outside of this seal that holds this whole assembly in. All right, now that you got everything apart, you want to go around this outside edge out here, clean all this off, all this old silicone. You want to also clean the crankshaft. Make sure there's no big grooves or scratches or anything in the crankshaft where the seal is going to ride. I would clean that with like rubbing alcohol or something like that doesn't leave any residue. The other thing you need to clean is the aluminum cover, kind of the same spot, so that channel all the way around, you got to get all that stuff clean as well. I'm just going to use a razor blade to clean the block off, but stuff a rag down the oil pan just so you don't have all this garbage falling into the oil pan, and take your time. And this stuff really, with a good razor blade, it comes off pretty easy, but I'm trying to like grab this stuff as it comes off so it doesn't end up in the oil pan. But as you can see, like up here, that's all you need. That's good to go. So it shouldn't take too long to get this all cleaned up, but clean this up and then clean up the aluminum plate on the other side that seats against this, and yeah, we'll get this thing back together. All right, once you get everything cleaned up, go ahead and put some RTV on the back side of the aluminum cover. You're gonna put the aluminum cover on first. And that should pretty much self-locate on the dowel pins. We're going to go ahead and get the bolts tightened up for the aluminum cover. And there's actually a pretty elaborate torque sequence for this, believe it or not. It's up to you guys, however you want to torque it, but my general rule of thumb is if it takes me longer than an hour just to get to the hardware, I'm going to torque it to spec. All right, first step is 89 inch-pounds in this order. All right, first step is going to be 15 foot-pounds. And now we have to go an additional 60 degrees. All right, so the seal goes in first, okay? This seal is from Felpro. The Felpro seals, I'll link them in the description. You can get two different versions with and without this ring, but the ones without the ring, you have to stretch the seal over the end of the crankshaft, and it's kind of a bear to do. The seal is, or the, I should say the piece of plastic is gonna cost you about another $8 or something like that. But Ford actually sells a special tool just to do this, but with this piece of plastic, you don't need to buy the special tool, which is, you know, a stupid amount of money. So the seal is gonna go in first. You're gonna slide the piece of plastic over the end of the crankshaft, and then basically just push in on the seal and get it started.
The main advantage of the special tool from Ford is it'll set the rear main seal to the correct depth in the aluminum plate. The way I'm doing it, if you're careless, you can push it right through the backside of the aluminum plate, and you'll have to pull the aluminum plate back off and set it back again. The other thing that you can do is put the seal in the aluminum plate and then put the aluminum plate on the engine block with the seal installed, but it's going to make it a lot harder to get it over the crankshaft. So it kind of depends on what you guys want to do.
So kind of what I'm doing to put this thing in here, you know, I pushed it in as far as I could with my fingers. I'm actually kind of on a bind. It's kind of tilted out at the top a little bit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the old seal and use that to kind of tap on it with a hammer a little bit, just to see if I can get the top of that started. You can get it. It's just one of those things that's going to take some time. All right, so as you guys can see, I got it seated all the way in there. I didn't really record it because I was, quite honestly, I'm more concerned about getting mine right than you know, making a video. So with that in mind, the thickness of the old seal is the same as the new seal. So when you seat that in there all the way, there's still room for the oil slinger, and there's two kind of schools of thought with this. Some people say it's not necessary, other ones do. Personally, I'm going to put it back in because, well, quite frankly, this is a stick shift car. There's going to be clutch dust in that area, and I don't want that clutch dust, you know, getting and wearing at the seal. So anything I can do to prolong the life of the seal, it's probably a good idea. But as far as putting the oil slinger back on, kind of the same deal. Doesn't fit nearly as tight as what the rear main seal does, but just kind of, you know, pushes into place. And using the old seal to push the new one in works very well. To a certain point, you know, obviously you're going to start driving the new seal or the old seal into the aluminum cover, and at a certain point it'll get stuck. So be mindful.
You'll know when the rear main seal is installed at the correct depth when there's just enough room to install the oil slinger.
All right, guys, that's how you replace a rear main seal in a 4.6, 5.4, or 6.8 V10. I will have links in the description to the oil slinger, to the rear main seal, to this whole back cover if you need the whole back cover, if you happen to break it or something like that. You know, the RTV, basically anything you would need to get this job done. You know, like I said in the beginning of the video, unfortunately, you either have to have the engine on an engine stand or remove the transmission to be able to replace this seal. But the seal is relatively cheap, so take that for what it is. If you guys, as always guys, if you guys like the video, hit like. If you want to see more content, go down and hit subscribe. Thanks for watching, guys.